Om Bhadram Karnebi Shurayama Devaha Bhadram Pashe Makshabhirya Tatraha Sthirayarangai Istustuvagam Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitayadayuhu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we enjoy with strong limbs and body the life allotted to us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Our subject this morning is Swami Vivekananda, a man who walked with God. Swamiji's birthday this year falls 2 days from now, on Tuesday the 21st. And usually when we celebrate these great spiritual masters' birthdays, in addition to a formal worship, we remember them through discussing their lives or their teachings. We are very fortunate here in San Francisco to be one of the 2 centers that Swami Vivekananda founded when he was in this country. In 1894, he founded one of the societies in New York, the West Side Center, and here in San Francisco on April 14th, 1900, at the request of some earnest devotees, he founded our society here. This leads me to mention that 2025 is a very special year for us because it's the 125th anniversary of Swami's visit here to the Bay Area. You know, we often consider Swamiji in terms of his universal message. We consider him as a world teacher, as a representative of Neo-Vedanta, as a great prophet, a dynamic orator, an amazing patriot, and of course, an extraordinary mystic. He introduced Eastern religions to this country in 1893 when he came and spoke at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. And he visited this country twice in his short lifetime and gave his all to spread his master Sri Ramakrishna's message of the divinity of humankind, the oneness of existence, and the harmony of religions. Swami Vivekananda was extraordinarily gifted and brilliant, and above all, he was a highly spiritual personality. He was, without a doubt, a multifaceted genius. All of these we accept, and they're true. But this morning, I would like to remember Swamiji from a different angle. I would like to remember him as a man, as a person, like you and like me. A man who came to this country at the end of the 19th century when Garawa robes and turbans, what to speak of crystal balls, or a taste of the mysterious Orient. Swamiji is someone that we can easily relate to. He's someone that we can share our joys and victories with. He's someone who will comfort us in our sorrows and disappointments in life. Swamiji is just such a kind and loyal friend and guide. As a mystic, as a sage, true, he was one with the truth that he taught, wherever he went and with whomsoever he lived or came into contact with. Swamiji has been lionized and held in deep respect and awe. But as a person, he was something more than that. He was a man who walked with God, but related to all of us as our brother and as our friend. He was someone we can truly call our own, someone who saw our inner potential, someone who encourages us to actualize that potential and assures that it is possible for you and for me. One of the three Mead sisters from Pasadena, a disciple of Swamiji and a helper in his work here in San Francisco, Alice Hansborough, recalled, "I always felt as if he were my very own, a very close relation for whom I had been waiting a long, long time." And another remembered that he was someone she had loved for 62 years, not as a teacher, nor a great religious leader, but simply as a wonderful. In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked Sri Krishna a question. He wants to know what are the signs of a person of steady wisdom, someone of deep insight. How does that person sit? How does that person speak? How does he or she move around in this world? How does he or she interact with others? How do they behave? And Sri Krishna answers Arjuna by saying, when all the desires of the heart have been removed, and the spirit within oneself finds joyous satisfaction in itself alone, without any dependence on anything or anyone outside, not being upset by criticisms or negative remarks, adversity, not being overjoyed by praise or positive comments or happenings, free from attachment and with deep serenity of mind, that's a person of steady wisdom. This is exactly what we want to know. How did Swami Vivekananda, who was indisputably a man of steady wisdom, how did he live in this world? How did he sit? How did he walk? How did he deal with others? With those that loved him and those that despised him, those who were loyal to him and those who betrayed him. We want to understand these things so that we can relate to Swamiji and feel that he's our very own. Now, knowing that Swamiji had lived with the Mead sisters in Pasadena, the late Swami Ashokananda, in his role as Arjuna, interviewed Alice in the 1940s as they drove throughout San Francisco. For example, here are some of the questions that Swami Ashokananda asked Alice about Swamiji. How did he impress you? At what time would he come down from his room? What time would he take his breakfast? You said his hair was black. How did he wear it at that time? Was it long? And what would he usually take for breakfast? Did he like his coffee with cream? What would Swamiji wear to the meetings? Would he wear his robe? Did Swamiji laugh and joke very much? Did Swamiji speak in a loud tone or quietly? Did you ever find him aloof? Or did he make himself one with all? Did you ever see Swamiji in a particularly exalted mood? Now, in this way, the Swami asked many, many more questions, including about the contents of Swamiji's classes and lectures. And thus he drew from Alice many fascinating details about Swamiji as a person. This morning, I'd like to create a collage of some of the incidents and charming stories that reveal Swamiji's personality. Get some idea of his physical appearance, of his marvelous voice, of his wonderful sense of humor, his childlike, playful nature, his loving heart, and deep concern and interest in his fellow human beings, and of course, his tremendously brilliant intellect and profound spirituality, which culminated in his ardent wish to open up the world of the spirit which exists within every one of us, free from prejudice, without difference or distinction. You know, Swamiji is not just a great soul who lived 125 years ago. He continues to live through his life and teachings, perhaps even more so today. On April 9th, 1900, just a few days before Swamiji founded this society, he gave a talk in San Francisco where he said, "What we want to see is the man who is harmoniously developed, great in heart, great in mind, great in deed. Why not have the giant who is equally active, equally knowing, and equally loving? Is it impossible? Certainly not. This is the man of the future." Well, this was not just the man of the future. It's as if Swamiji is describing himself. In the first corner of our collage, let's consider Swamiji's physical appearance. Swamiji was well proportioned, not very tall, maybe 5'8.5". He was very graceful in movement and gave the general impression that he was much taller than he was. He was slightly stout, but muscular, with commanding lotus-petaled luminous eyes that were deep black, just like his hair. While in California, the three Mead sisters in Pasadena convinced him not to cut his thick, curly hair, which he left long and wavy. Swamiji conceded to their request, as he was totally indifferent as to how he looked. Just as an aside, once while in New York, he told Ellen Waldo, the recorder of the Inspired Talks, that no matter how long he stood in front of a long mirror in the hallway, when he stepped away, he could not remember how he looked. He had to keep stepping back in front of the mirror to gaze at his image. There was no awareness of his physical features because he was identified with something much larger than his physical body. It has also been said that in spite of Swamiji's persistent ill health, he never had a gray hair. Some of the most beautiful photographs of him were taken in San Francisco in 1900, showing his hair somewhat long and wavy and parted in the middle, which made him look much younger than his 38 years. He was regal and moved like a lion, especially while on the platform. The beauty of Swamiji, nobody can imagine. Mrs. Allen, a Bay Area devotee, once said, his face, his hands, his feet, all were beautiful. In fact, one of his brother disciples, Swami Trigunatita, said that Swamiji's hands were far more beautiful than any woman's. And furthermore, they were very expressive. His fingers were long and tapering, lending a grace to his gestures. His complexion, it seemed, used to vary in color, sometimes dark and sometimes light, but can best be described as having a golden glow. When he wore a long Garawa robe with a sash and trousers and a turban, while lecturing, his face would become animated and would shine majestically, blending with the color of his robe. Again, Frank Roadhamel, an ardent East Bay devotee, a follower of Swamiji, tells us that Swamiji's personality impressed itself on one's mind with visual intensity. His vivid, penetrating eyes, the wealth of facial expressions and gestures, his melodious Sanskrit chanting and the translations, all these were set off by his then unique clothing of a Hindu sannyasin. As Frank said, who can forget them? Those that met the Swami were astonished at what they heard, amazed and enraptured by his appearance. Could they possibly find another who was so sublimely eloquent or so delightfully humorous? Such an entrancing storyteller, such a perfect mimic. In general, his appearance would remind one of the qualities of light and joy. One of his disciples, Swami Shuddhananda, remembered him as shining in broad daylight. And as Alice Hansborough said, he always looked bright, especially when he was particularly interested in something. Then his eyes actually sparkled. Romain Rolland, the French biographer, remarked that in intelligence, in expressiveness, in humor, in compassion, his eyes were radiant, inwardly absorbed, imbued with the spiritual light. They could penetrate effortlessly into one's consciousness and become fiery when angry. Nobody, he remarked, could escape them. As we move along our collage, we come to Swamiji's marvelous voice. Many have described his sweet, captivating voice which held his listeners spellbound. The manager of the halls where he spoke said, "I have heard many speakers, but never have I listened to such a sweet voice." It has been described as between baritone and tenor, with a slight bell-like quality, not overly loud or powerful. Swami Ashokananda said that he had heard that to listen to Swamiji's Sanskrit recitations was one of the most beautiful experiences one could have. Further, his pronunciation of English was perfect, with no foreign accent except a few small words here and there that delighted those who heard them. Swamiji had a great sense of humor and was often as playful and carefree as a child. If you live in the realm that Swamiji lived in, this whole world is a joyful play. Once when he was asked if he had actually seen God, he answered, "What? A big fat man like me?" He often referred to himself as the Fat Maharaj. When referring to his adequately padded middle, he would happily remark that it was his famine relief fund. He was an accomplished cook and was very fond of red-hot chilies. Often his diners had to suffer from the consequences of his cooking. One of Swamiji's devoted diners remarked that she had made up her mind that she would eat whatever he cooked, even if it strangled her, which it nearly did. With a laugh, he would ask his victims, "How was your oven?" While a guest at Ridgely Manor in upstate New York, Swamiji was often compelled to return to the dining table when his hostess, Betty Leggett, would announce that there was going to be ice cream for dessert. He would slowly sink back down into his chair with a complacent smile and pure delight rarely seen on the face of anyone over about 10. He especially liked chocolate ice cream, smilingly saying, "Because I too am chocolate, and I like it." Once when Swamiji and his companions stepped into a cafe after a lecture to have some ice cream, the hostess had to take the phone and requested that Swamiji and his companions please wait. Swamiji called out after her, "Well, don't be too long, or when you come back, you will only find a lump of chocolate ice cream." Another time, Josephine McLeod happened to come into a room unannounced in Ridgely Manor. And there was Swamiji lying flat on the floor, balancing the dignified businessman, Mr. Francis Leggett, with his feet. They were obviously enjoying various gymnastic stunts together. When Swamiji saw Josephine, he jumped up, flinging Frank Leggett to the other side of the room. He scolded Josephine, saying, "You should not enter a gentleman's quarters without knocking first." And then he said, "Now let us go and pick up what's left of Frank." Swamiji seemed to be in a particularly jovial mood in Southern California. While there, he was invited to the theater to see the comedy My Friend from India, which was a parody on Swamiji himself. His host said that he had never seen anyone laugh as much and as heartily as Swamiji did during the performance. While in Pasadena, it was the Christian observance of Lent, where one usually foregoes some favored food or pleasure for 40 days or so. The Meads always kept a bowl of fresh fruit on their table, which included guavas. Swamiji had an aversion to guavas. He was comparing Lent to a similar observance in India when he said, "All but the wicked fellows like me renounce something. Now I, for example, will renounce these guavas." "We took the hint," Alice said, and never had guavas again in the fruit bowl. When Mrs. Bowler invited him to speak in Pasadena, she specifically requested that he wear his turban. Alice asked him if he had to wear the turban, because by that time he'd given it up. "Don't you understand, madam? She wants the whole show." One very cold evening in San Francisco, Swamiji had been talking at length about different interpretations of heaven and hell that are given in the Indian scriptures. He had described various varieties of hell in detail. After the class, when the group left the hall with Swamiji and stepped outside, he pulled up his overcoat, shivering, remarking, "If this isn't hell, I don't know what is." Swamiji was fond of funny stories, some of which he used to frequently repeat and sometimes during his talks. One of his favorites, it's a little corny, one of his favorites was about a missionary who was sent on a mission to a cannibal island. The missionary asked the natives how they had liked his predecessor, and they replied, "He was delicious." Swamiji would repeat this and unabashedly laugh at his own joke. When a woman once asked Swamiji if he was a Buddhist, he replied wickedly with a grave face, "No, madam, I'm a florist." Swamiji loved to play games with children, like Ring Around the Rosie and various other games, and to talk to those he encountered here and there about their schoolwork. He would sing simple songs to them and tell them enchanting stories of his Indian homeland, about monkeys and peacocks and flights of colorful birds, masses of flowers, and outdoor markets with piles of fresh fruits and vegetables of all colors of the rainbow. He often gave the children candies or pennies, which delighted them to no end. The children loved him, obviously not feeling the slightest difference or awe. Swamiji was simply just one of them. One of his friends, Cornelia Conger, would rush up to him when he entered her house and beg him to tell her another story. He requested to see her school books and pointed out to her India on the map. It was pink, she recalled. She also admitted that she was fascinated by his turban. Many other children and adults alike were also in awe. It struck her as a very funny kind of hat, especially since he had to rewind it up every time he put it on. She even persuaded him to let her watch him wrap it back and forth around his head as she stared on, wide-eyed in great wonder. Once when Swamiji and Alice were in Golden Gate Park at what is now Stowe Lake, they had crossed a stone bridge, which, by the way, is still there, marked 1893, and they ended up on a small island. Swamiji repeatedly tried to explain to Alice where they were, but she just didn't get it. Well, madam, I'm certainly glad I haven't your brain. His dignity particularly impressed everyone. Yet once, when someone said to him, "Swami, you're so dignified," he casually replied, "It isn't me, it's my walk." As we move around our collage, we continue to find various aspects of Swamiji's personality, such as his loving heart and his deep concern for his fellow human beings. Swamiji had a unique way of taking ordinary circumstances as an opportunity to impart an important teaching or a particular truth, which he often did almost casually. At a very elaborate dinner party in Ridgely Manor one time, when the tables were all set with beautiful flowers and sparkling lights, all the ladies were dressed in their finest apparel of the late 19th century. There was a young artist there, Maud Stum. She was a guest and a friend of Swamiji. She was completely mesmerized by the glamour. Noticing this, Swamiji quietly leaned over and said amidst all the other table talk, "Don't let it fool you." One is reminded of another occasion when he cautioned in a similar way, "Don't be deceived. Maya is a great cheat. Get out. Do not let her catch you this time." Alice's nephew Ralph was about 17 years old, and he lived with Swamiji in the Pasadena house. He was very fond of him and used to do whatever little service he could, like polishing his shoes and things like that. Once Swamiji asked him, "Can you see your own eyes?" And Ralph thought for a minute and said, "Not unless I look into a mirror." "God is like that," Swamiji said. "He is as close to you as your own eyes. He is your own, even though you can't see him." As for the practice of morality and ethics in our spiritual life, Swamiji would vigorously declare, "Who cares if Muhammad or Buddha were good men? Does that alter our goodness or evil? We should be good for our own sake, take on our own responsibility, not just because somebody else was good ages ago." For the most part, Swamiji was very informal. Mrs. Allen told a story that he once did something very unconventional in the kitchen. He actually licked his fingers after he spilled some juice on them, which shocked her totally. But Swamiji said, "Madam, you always want this little outside to be so nice. It's not the outside that matters, it's what's inside." He would instruct to be broad-minded, to always see both sides. When I am on the heights, I say, I am he. And when I have a stomach ache, I say, Mother, have mercy on me. Always see both ways. Swamiji's power and energy manifested through the courage that he gave others. He seemed to totally lack any self-consciousness. It was always the other person who held his interest. His presence was dynamic, prompting Swami Atulananda Gurudas Maharaj to remark, "What a giant, what strength, what a personality." Swamiji saw the strength of the other person who felt that courage enter into him or her until everyone who came near him went away feeling refreshed, invigorated, and sustained. There was a certainty about Swamiji which he naturally conveyed to others, giving them assurance and self-confidence. Swamiji had said on several occasions that he had given enough to the world to last for 1,500 years. This isn't just casual talk. Every word of his was charged with his own personal spiritual realization. Such words are full of power, so great that it produces a tremendous result for years and years to come. He used to make us realize, Josephine MacLeod said, that there was nothing secular in this world. All is holy. You know, it's not possible to pass that power and positive attitude on unless you have it, unless you yourself have actually experienced it. And that is exactly what Swamiji did. His great heart could encompass all of humanity, seeing beyond their faults and weaknesses. As one of his Thousand Island Park students said, with what infinite love and patience would he lead those who came to him out of the labyrinth of their own frailties and point out to them the way out of self to God. One of his irritating traits, if we may call it so, to those around him was his total indifference and total lack of a sense of time. Living in time was a huge bondage for him and a pain in the neck for those who were responsible for getting to him to places on time. He simply refused to ever be hurried. Swamiji always seemed to live on the outskirts or the periphery of time. Not only that, he did not want to be a victim of time. He didn't want to be bound by anything. And further, he did not want to be compelled to obey laws. Swamiji was a divine outlaw who delighted in breaking regulations that he felt were meaningless or merely social niceties. When Swamiji was a very young boy, his energy was turbulent to overflowing. His mother would have to stick his head under a tap of ice-cold water to calm him down. And she would scold him, telling him, "I prayed to Lord Shiva for a son, and he has sent me one of his demons." The power that Swamiji embodied, even from his youth, that would ultimately shake India and the entire world, could not be harnessed so easily. Swamiji possessed a tremendous power of concentration, of opening up to the great cosmic qualities that exist and that are all around us. And this he taught to those who sought. He made a great effort to help everyone in whatever way he or she needed. He always wanted to do something for the other person. And in all of this, he removed any feeling that he was superior to anyone. So humble was he. One of his Indian friends, Haripada Mitra, remarked, "As I sat there after saluting him, I was wondering, is he a man or a god?" As we come to the bottom of our collage, we come to Swamiji's phenomenally brilliant mind and profound spirituality. His vast secular knowledge is well known to us. He was well versed and deeply steeped in both Eastern and Western culture, history, art, literature, humanities, science, and so on. He was also a connoisseur of music. He was an accomplished musician, both vocally and also on playing on various instruments like the tabla and pakhwaj, etc. He thoroughly understood and appreciated the melodies, the ragas, and the subtle, seamless quality of Indian classical music. However, he was heard to remark when he heard some Western classical music with its harmonies and lack of overtones and greater intervals between notes, that it has holes in it like that good Swiss cheese that you give me. When he was reading an encyclopedia, one of his disciples remarked that it would take a whole lifetime to read all of these volumes, much less remember what they contained. But Swamiji challenged him to ask him any question that he chose from the 11 volumes that he had already read. Much to the total amazement of the disciple, when questioned on any abstruse point, Swamiji could answer it in great detail. Now, this certainly illustrates the tremendous mental capacity and power of concentration that he had. Notably, he never gave any special importance to this unusual gift, saying anyone could do it if they practiced. This unstudied humility is one of the Swami's qualities that made him such a profound world teacher. He was a man for the entire world. The other mental quality that Swamiji possessed was the curiosity and interest in humanity's discoveries, their efficiency in work, and organization for the smooth running of society. He was impressed with his experience in the United States and was a catalyst for his wanting to officially organize the monks into the Ramakrishna order with the twin motto for one's own liberation and for the benefit of humankind. Finally, we come to Swamiji's profound spirituality. We have it from Sri Ramakrishna himself that Swamiji was a perfected sage. He brought him to this plane of existence from the realm of the Sapta Rishis, the 7 Rishis, to do his work, to spread his message. Swamiji was a Dhyana Siddha, perfect in meditation from his birth. And further, he is considered to be an incarnation of Nara, the perfect man. And some hold that he was even the embodiment of Lord Shiva. For example, one of his brother monks, Swami Shivananda Mahapurush Maharaj, told a story that once he was sleeping next to Swamiji when he awoke in the night and saw Swamiji lying beside him, shining in a white light as Lord Shiva himself. He was so astonished and amazed at what he saw, he could not sleep for the rest of the night. Well, this is quite a resume. We know that Swamiji was aware of his infinite nature. Yet as a part of the divine play that was being enacted at that time, this drama we are talking about was orchestrated partially to conceal this from him. In accordance to this view, Swamiji's spiritual message evolved over time in terms of the details, the emphasis that he stressed in different places, at different times, and his method of explanation. Many articles and essays and books and dissertation and on have been written about Swamiji's message and how he grew along with his message over time through his various life experiences in the West and in India. However, that's not our concern this morning. What we will consider in brief is how Swamiji's spirituality uniquely expressed itself through him as a man. It is this that makes him so extraordinary, so lovable, and his message so profound and appealing. Swamiji didn't have 6 arms and 2 heads. He had 2 arms and 1 head. He used to say that he did not like platform work. Public lecturing is killing. At 8 o'clock, I am to speak on love. At 8 o'clock, I do not feel like love. Swamiji wrote a fiery letter to Mary Hale in 1895. I have a message, and I will give it after my own fashion. I will neither Hinduize my message, nor Christianize it, nor make it any eyes in this world. I will only my-ize it, and that is all. Liberty or mukti is all my religion. After an outstanding lecture on Jesus of Nazareth, when Swamiji seemed to radiate a white light, so completely absorbed and lost was he in the glory of Jesus Christ, that Josephine MacLeod did not dare to break his solemn mood as they were walking quietly and slowly along after the public lecture. Suddenly, Swamiji broke the silence, saying, I know how they do it. How they do what? She replied, surprised. How they make mulligatawny soup. They put a bay leaf in it. She later remarked, that utter lack of consciousness, of self-consciousness, of self-importance was perhaps one of his outstanding characteristics. Swamiji always stressed strength, fearlessness, and our own innate joy. Permanence is nowhere except in yourself, he would say. There within yourself is the eternal joy, unchanging. In 1896, when Swamiji was in London, his brother Mahendranath has given us an insight into Swamiji's inner world at this time. You see, Swamiji said, at night I go to my room and I lie down. I keep quiet for a while, and then within me so much ananda arises that I cannot stay lying down. I see the blissful mother. Men, animals, the sky, and earth, all are saturated with bliss. I cannot lie down any longer. I get up and I dance in the middle of the room. That bliss can no longer be confined within my heart. The whole world becomes filled with it, as it were. Swamiji frequently spoke of our true infinite nature, that it is always in us, whether we are aware of it or not. He would urge us, almost plead with us, to try to live in the Lord, to stand in him, to identify with him, and constantly assert that this is the only joyful state of existence. He would say, is it such a bad choice in this world to think not of matter, but of spirit? Not of man, but of God? To those of us who get entranced and attracted by all the great wonders of this world, he would gently say, if all this Maya is so beautiful, think of the wondrous beauty of the reality behind it. My ideal can be put into a few words, and that is to preach into mankind their divinity and how to make it manifest in every movement of life. This is perhaps Swamiji's most important central teachings, practical Vedanta. He gave 4 incredible talks on this subject, covering every aspect of making Vedanta relevant in our daily lives. He wanted to make these lofty teachings, which are often highly philosophical, abstruse, and even academic, so simple that even a child could understand them. And that is how this man who walked with God lived and taught. Yes, he gave many formal, brilliant lectures, both in the West and in India. But in addition to this, some of his best teachings were given simply and informally, through conversations, through his letters, and to those that he worked with and lived with. Isn't it true that life always touches life? This was certainly the case with Swamiji, and no one knew it better than he did. All differences in this world are of degree, he said, and not of kind, because oneness is the secret of everything. It is through the heart that the Lord is seen and not through the intellect. Do you feel for others? If you do, you are growing in oneness. It is feeling that is the life, the strength, the vitality, without which no amount of intellectual activity can ever reach God. As he wrote to the Hale sisters, instead of materializing the spirit, convert matter into spirit. Catch a glimpse every day of that world of infinite beauty, peace, and purity, the spiritual, and try to live in it day and night. Swamiji's mood was that of a Paramahamsa, an Avadhuta. Ordinarily, outwardly, he lived just like a regular person, but inwardly, he was conscious only of the ultimate truth, divinity. That such a person walked among us here in San Francisco, trudging all over the city, uphill and down, as he would say, through Golden Gate Park, lingering in Chinatown, dining at the Cliff House and riding the cable cars. Such a one loved us, all of us, and was one of the rare persons in the history of humanity that assures us of our worth and of our potential greatness and our ability to realize it right now in this life. Thank you.
स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Here are some announcements. There will be no lecture next Sunday because of a special program the day before. Childcare is provided during our Sunday lectures. There will be no Sunday evening online class until Sunday, March 9th. On Wednesday evenings, we have Vespers with meditation at 7:30 p.m. in this auditorium. There will be no Friday evening class until March 7th. Special announcements. Next Saturday, January 25th, we will celebrate the birthday of Swami Vivekananda with a worship in his honor at 10 o'clock in the morning. The program will also include meditation, chanting, devotional singing, readings from the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda, flower offerings by devotees, and a prasad luncheon. Childcare will be provided. This year we will be celebrating our 125th anniversary, as I had mentioned, with several special guests and programs. If you are interested in attending these programs, please take a Save the Dates flyer, which is available in the foyer and lobby. You and your friends are cordially invited to attend all of our services. After the lecture, there will be a question and answer session in the Vivekananda Hall, and all are welcome. Om Dyo Shantirantariksam Shanti Prithivi Shantirapa Shantihi O Shadaya Shantirvanaspataya Shantir Vishwe Deva Shantir Brahma Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shantireva Shantihi Same Shantaredhi Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Peace is in heaven, peace is in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. The herbs, the plants, and the trees are all full of peace. The gods are peaceful. Everything in the universe is pervaded by peace. May this eternal, universal peace enter our soul and being. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us all and to all beings everywhere.